Well, thank you all for coming out this evening. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to learn about two major projects, not only in the city, but also in District 3, which is the Sunset Complex project led by Pasadena Water and Power, and also to receive an update on the Central Library Earthquake Retrofit Building Repairs Project and see the progress on design and programming for the spaces for our Pasadena Central Library. So before we get started, I just want to make a quick just introductions of the city staff that's here. Right with us, we have our Assistant City Manager, Brenda Harvey Williams. We have the Pasadena Public Library Director, Tim McDonald, and his team. From Department of Public Works, we have Tio and Hayden, and I saw the acting director, what is your title? Brent Maui. What is your title, Brent? Acting City Engineer? Okay, Acting City Engineer. Also from Water and Power, we have Michael Lynn. Oh, come on, we can clap for Michael. And we have from the Department of Transportation, Dotson Liu. And so quickly, I want to introduce Pacific Oaks' Dean of Students, Mr. Michael Patton.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pacific Oaks. Bienvenidos a Pacific Oaks. Buenas tardes. We're glad you're here. So for those who are not familiar with Pacific Oaks College, next year we're going to be celebrating our 80th anniversary here in Pasadena. So if you want to ask yourself a couple of questions, how nice would the world be if everybody was respected regardless of what they looked like, where they came from, the language they speak, how old they are, their gender, what they believe? That was the principal question and questions of the families that got together to create Pacific Oaks Children's School 80 years ago. They wanted to teach children what is called anti-bias curriculum, to teach children to understand that it's okay if you don't look like the person you're sitting next to. They are just as important as you are, and you might learn something from them because their experience is different than yours. And you might be able to share something with them that they hadn't seen or experienced before either. The children's school started to grow, so the college was born to teach new teachers to work at the children's school because those questions weren't always taught in other schools. So we wanted to train our own teachers. But then it started to grow a little bit more, so we started to teach teachers to go out into the community at other schools. And then we started to realize adults could benefit from that type of education as well. So the college grew in disciplines and now includes business, leadership, social work, marriage and family therapy, and of course, early childhood education and teacher credentialing, just to name a few. And this year, this fall, we did something historic for us as a college. We launched our first doctorate program here, of course, in leadership and early childhood education. We are very proud to be members of the Pasadena community. We're proud to always host Councilmember Jones and help everyone have the type of discourse that we encourage so that we can participate, our voices can be heard, and we can learn from the perspectives and make our community a little bit better. So we're thankful that you're here. We're glad that you've come to participate, and I'll turn the time over to Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Michael. And I did not mention that we do have some community partners. We have Day One sitting over here to our left. They're a local nonprofit headquartered next to City Hall in District 3. They're a community-based organization providing public health education, intervention, and policy development in the San Gabriel Valley. So please give them a round of applause too. And we also have Lisa Wilson, the Director of Youth Programs and Evaluation from the Flintridge Center, which is another community-based organization that's committed to breaking the cycle of poverty and violence through Youth of Promise programs. So please give Lisa applause. Okay, so let's move on. And first up next, we will have our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Brenda Harvey-Williams, provide some brief updates on the city. Give it up for Brenda Harvey-Williams.
Good evening. This is a great turnout, council member, so thank you for inviting me. I'm actually the B team here tonight. He really invited Miguel Marquez, our city manager, but Miguel is on a much needed vacation, so you're stuck with me. Thank you to Lisa, Councilmember Jones, District Liaison. She sent us an agenda, and I have a very strict time limit, and I've probably used too much of it already. So in terms of just a few city updates, a few things I just wanted to highlight in this, as we move from summer to fall, some of the things that are going on in our city and really in our nation. We all know what's happening on November 5th. We've got an election coming up, and you've probably, if, like me, I'm also a Pasadena resident, got that voter guide in the mail. It's heavy. There's a lot there. So please take the time to go through that. We do have city measures in there, and there are county measures and state measures, and of course all of the offices that are being held. I did want to highlight one thing that's different in this year's election if you like to vote in person. I know I do. I personally, we have so many options. You've already received your mail-in ballot, but I like to go to the polls, and I like to go to the polls on election day, and I like to darken my circle and get my sticker and wear it around all day. That's me. But one change I do want to make you aware of, and that is, and we had no control over this because it's the county that selects the voting centers, there will not be a voting center at Robinson Park. There usually is, but there will not be one there this year for the extended days like there typically is. Again, it wasn't the city's decision. We're not happy with the decision. The county decides where the voting centers go, but I did want to make everyone aware of that. Now, the one thing we were able to negotiate with them is we will have a mobile site there the Saturday before the Tuesday election day. So on Saturday, November 2nd, Robinson will be there will be a mobile voting center there, so you can go there and vote that one day only or drop off your completed ballots. But I thought that was important to let especially folks in District 3 know that, because we're used to going there and being able to vote. Another thing I wanted to highlight, if you're following things going on in the city, I don't want to take too much time about it, but the City Council recently had a work session on the grants pass decision by the Supreme Court that addressed the unhoused and how cities can address unhoused folks. I don't want to go into the details right now, but I want you to know that as a City Council, they did not vote to take any action different from what we already do in terms of enforcement. So in Pasadena, just being homeless is not a crime worthy of being arrested, and that policy will continue. Highlighting a couple of upbeat things happening this fall. Next Friday is Art Night. Has anyone ever been to Art Night? There we go. Yes, Art Night, great night. It is returning for its fall session next Friday, October 18th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. All the normal places will be open, so you can start at City Hall if you like and catch a bus and go around to the various arts and cultural institutions that are all going to be open, all free. Always a wonderful, wonderful evening. And then the final item I wanted to bring your attention to, I don't see anybody here with little kiddos, but our Parks and Recreation Department will be hosting a fall festival on October 26th, which is the Saturday before Halloween, at Victory Park, and it's all free. There will be free food, there will be carnival games. I had asked for a pony ride, but First of all, they told me I was too big for the pony ride, and I was offended, but something about not being able to get ponies out there. But they will have carnival games and Halloween costume contests and a lot of competitions and a lot of good family fun, and it is all absolutely free, all provided by your city of Pasadena. And with that, I'm gonna, I see a question. Yes, ma'am. Oh, and that's gonna be from 12. The question was, what are the hours for the Fall Festival at Victory Park? It begins at noon and ends at 4. Okay, so tell your neighbors, bring your friends, great fun time out, come on out. And it's Saturday, October 26th. And the costume contest will be all ages. So, adults as well. You want to tell it? Oops, that was my timer. Okay.
If Robinson Park is closed for voting, do you happen to know the nearest location?
Yes, there will be, and in your voter guide, it does tell you. For example, Villa Park will continue to be an early vote center, as well as Rosemont Pavilion. And there are others, but those are the two big ones that will be open. I believe they open 10 days before the election. So you have all of those days to vote in person. Okay, so right on my time. Lisa's giving me the eye. If no one has any other questions, I will wrap it up. And I would just want to say, good job, District 3. This is a great meeting so far, great meeting space here at Pacific Oaks. And you are represented by a great council member, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey Williams. Up next, I want to introduce Lisa Wilson, the Director of Youth Programs and Evaluation at the Flintridge Center, to provide brief remarks. Oh, we can clap for her. Give it up for Lisa.
Hello. If you looked at the agenda earlier, you probably saw Josh McCurry. I'm not Josh McCurry. He was under the weather today, so I'm pinch hitting for him. So I'm just going to give you an overview kind of what we do at Flintridge Center. Part of our mission is breaking the cycle of poverty, violence, and incarceration through the various programs that we offer. And we offer programs for youth, and we also offer programs for adults. So our signature program is the Apprenticeship Preparation Program, which provides training for those interested in the construction fields or those who may have had barriers to employment, especially those who were previously incarcerated. We went into construction because it's one of the fields that welcomes people who were previously incarcerated because the insurance is so high anyway that it doesn't hurt them to hire people. So they're introduced to all 20 different trades in construction, from plumbing to carpentry, and they have an opportunity to do some hands-on work. And then the other side of it is soft skills and working with them to address some of those barriers and behaviors that may have gotten them to the point where they're, what got them perhaps incarcerated or why they were in a gang or whatever the issue was. And so we have a dedicated team, a good percentage of the team that works with the apprenticeship program was formerly incarcerated, so we believe in using people who have had that experience and who know what it's like to try to come back into a community and reintegrate and start over. Many of the people that graduate from there, it's a 10-week program, 240 hours. When they graduate, they, I'm sorry, I didn't set my timer. I'm 2 minutes in, right? Okay. When they graduate, often if they've met other barriers, they have their driver's license and other things that they need. They've addressed any substance misuse issues, any legal issues, then they're eligible to be placed in a union. Union jobs, for the most part, start at an average of maybe $21 an hour, and they rapidly increase as they work. So they're probably every 300 hours or so, they're getting an increase. And we've seen several who have ended up buying homes after 3 or 4 years of working, and they come back and they're so proud, and it's like a first time thing for them. So that's our signature program. We also have reintegration services, so we work with those who may not be ready for employment, but they need help. And so we have an attorney on staff who helps them to clear their record. We have case managers who help connect them to various services that are going to help them make their life more fulfilling. So those are our adult services. We'll be having our 50th graduating class of the apprenticeship preparation program next year. So I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, our Youth of Promise program. We provide services for youth who usually are referred. Some of them are referred through the schools, so their counselor may refer them, their teacher may refer them. Some of them are referred through law enforcement, so we work with Pasadena Police Department and LA County Probation. If a youth runs into the police in a difficult position, instead of them going through the traditional probation, they're referred to us. And we have case managers who will sit down with them and develop a care plan. And so that can include volunteer work. It can include doing work with youth. Sometimes just depends on what their issue was. We have youth who have both petty crimes, and we also have had youth who have committed felonies. And so it's a real opportunity for the youth. Some of them appreciate it, some of them don't. Most of the parents very much appreciate it. Once they're finished with it, their record is clear, and they can move on to their life without having the burden of a record. We provide after-school services and boys and girls groups. So we have gender-specific groups, and those happen at Flintridge Center, which is walking distance from here for some. And yeah, we also do community service with them. So we take them out this Saturday. We're taking them to the beach. We'll work with Heal the Bay, and they'll pick up trash, and they get hours for that. So we have middle school and high school youth. A lot of them want to earn community service hours. So we provide the means to do that at both the beach, and then we do the food bank, LA Food Bank, once a month as well. So with that, I'll take any questions if anyone has any. Yes.
When you said about the youth, what age groups are you talking about? And do they all have to have a specific referral, or can they do that on their own?
No, they can. She asked the age group and if they have to have a specific referral. And they do not have to have a specific referral. If they're referred by the police, there's one. We have 2 case managers that work specifically with those youth. We call them diversion youth. And then we have some that work with all of the other youth. And we have people who come who are referred by people who've been in the program. Some of them run into us even like at a community meeting or whatever. If it's a young person who can benefit from our program, which is heavily focused on social emotional learning, because what we've noticed with youth is that a lot of times some of the violent incidents that happen between youth is partially due to them not understanding their own feelings, their own emotions, and what are alternative ways to handle things, right? So we teach them about, well, that's anger, even though it looked like this, and then we have a big wheel of, the feelings wheel. What was that? Why were you feeling that? Why did you kick that little girl? Was it because she didn't respond to your joke, which you thought was a joke? She didn't think it was funny, so then you kicked her because of that. So we work a lot with them to really teach them how to recognize their own emotions, how to name their own emotions, and how to respond. How do you diffuse, when you're just like really angry? How do you deal with that? And so we try to give them the tools for that. Mental health is a component that runs through all of our programs. And so they all have access to clinical support if that's needed. So, any others? Yes?
I'm curious, what's approximately the percentage of women that are in your apprenticeship program and also in youth program?
That are in the apprenticeship program? And I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yes, no, I was asking approximately what percentage of people in the apprenticeship program and the youth programs were women or girls?
Thank you for asking, and I didn't finish answering. The age is 11 to 18. That's who we serve. And for your question, honestly, for construction, it's between 2 to 4%. But we're working on it. I mean, you know, it's a very lucrative field, and the women who have gone into it have really been happy that they did. You know, some of them have been promoted to supervisory positions maybe that are a little less physical, you know, because it's very physical work. I mean, and that's a big part of the training, getting them used to the kind of physicality required to be successful in that work. In terms of our programming, I was just looking at something today, and I was looking at how it had flipped. So 2 years ago, we had like 50 to 60% female and the rest male. Now that's switched. So we have more boys at the moment than we have girls. Now, coincidentally, we have 3 male staff now, which is a new thing. And so I'm sure that has something to do with it. So she wanted to know what we do to encourage parents and what the parent involvement looks like. We have parent cafes. We use like a World Cafe model, and it's bringing the parents together, focused on building resilience within the families. The parents can share, you know, stories and understand that, you know, they're not the only one whose family looks kind of crazy sometimes, you know, that we all have that going on. And so that's one way. They also can access mental health services. We can refer the family for mental health services, and that are no charge to them. So our mental health, none of our services cost. And what else do we do for parents? We do financial assistance. We started that during COVID. And so when parents are really, you know, up against it, they can't pay their rent that month. They can't, you know, they have no food in the house, you know, or we notice that during a site visit, we go over and there's no food. We provide financial support.
We do have to get through the agenda. Quick question?
Do you have an outreach program to spread awareness of your programs so people can find out about it?
I've left flyers on the table that describe our programs. We go out to a lot of community events and meetings and spread the word that way. So, and we're also on the school campuses so that they know. Okay, thank you very much.
And just to mention that on our last plan development, the city, I mean, we decided to eliminate plan developments, but on our last plan development in the city, we applied a condition to allow, I think it was like 25% of your workforce had to be targeted workers, and the definition of a targeted worker was those facing barriers to employment, coming out the foster care system, having recently been released from incarceration. So, I mean, this work, and it was a construction job, so the work is very coupled with the work that Flintridge does. So, appreciate you presenting today. So up next, we will hear from our Director of Libraries and Information Services, Mr. Tim McDonald.
Thank you, Councilmember Jones, and thank you, District Liaison Lisa Barrios, for coordinating tonight's evening. And thank you, Dean Patton, for hosting us in this beautiful facility. But thank you, most of all, to you in the audience for being here. Councilmember Jones told you my job title, Library Director, but he didn't tell you I have the best job in the city. I love the library, and the reason I love the library is because I work in a place that's free and open to everyone, no matter where you're from, or how old you are, how much money you make, or what you're interested in, the library is your library. And here in Pasadena, we have some terrific libraries, and you deserve an update on where we are with the Central Library project. And I can tell we're going to get some great questions tonight, and I'm looking forward to them. So we're going to try to get through the presentation quickly so we can have time for questions at the end. And one thing that might help is, could you raise your hand if you've been inside the Central Library before it closed? That's great. And is there anybody that's never been inside the Central Library before? Okay. There's a few people that have a real treat for them when we reopen. So we'll share with you some information about where we are in the design process for reopening Central Library, so you can see what it will look like when we reopen the doors. And at the end of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about what the plan is to pay for this project, for the construction project. So I have two very important guests with me tonight from Gruen Associates. That's the design firm that the city hired to help us make the structural repairs that the building needs and update it so we have a beautiful library to last us for the next 100 years. So Deborah Gerard, who is a partner at Gruen Associates, is here. And our incredible project manager, Devin Barnes, will lead the next part of the presentation. So I'll pass it over to her. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Councilmember. The Pasadena Central Library, we know this is a cherished building in the city. Quick agenda. We'll get through it. We have some fun stuff to show. Giving you guys a background of how this first initially started, they were doing some upgrades to the sprinkler system and the fire alarm system. And they found that the building was not a concrete building because it looks like a massive concrete building. It was actually all brick. And it's unreinforced brick. So that's what we call URM. California and Pasadena has ordinances to repair and not build this way anymore. So the building was closed, and then once again, Tim mentioned that we got on board after some structural investigations were done. We've done many things, or actually the city has done material testing, geotechnical investigations, and they also have a separate structural engineer to do a peer review against our structural engineer. Also, some of the background, there were special committees formed to help with the planning of this before we were involved. Some of them were a library programming committee and also a mayor's technical oversight committee to oversee the process and the structural upgrades that our structural engineer was planning to do. This is a timeline, and hopefully, I just realized you guys can't see the one I'm looking at. Oh, but you have that one back there. Okay, kind of noticed everybody keeps looking that way. Good, because I was like, you can't really see this one. All right, so this is where we're at right now. We're in the design document phase, and we will be going in for permit. And so we're kind of halfway through the whole process from when it was originally red tagged. This is some of the investigations that were done to check, to confirm how the building was being supported and standing up. This was what was formerly known as the law room, if any of you guys are familiar with it. Everything was stripped down and taken into account and documented and preserved and secured. But this helped us and the structural engineer do some further investigations. The shear wall approach, which City Council in August of 2023 did approve the process to move forward. This shows one of the walls in the Great Hall as an example of the idea of how we would go about doing this. So we would take off the finishes, the bookcases, the historic woodwork. The plaster would have to be removed and replaced. Then we would take off the first layer of brick. These walls are made up of withes of brick, so there are these very thick layers of brick with multiple bricks woven together to make up these different sections. We would be removing the inner one, putting up a concrete shear wall, and then putting back everything as it was with new acoustic plaster. At the beginning of the project, we worked pretty closely with the library and the city in developing these project goals and objectives. Obviously, the earthquake and the seismic upgrades was necessary, as were life safety. Historic preservation, we knew, was also the key important factor to this building. Accessibility was badly needed for the building. The public benefit of getting it reoccupied, because there's so many people in Pasadena that like going to the library and using particularly this one. Risk management for making sure we're on track and meeting our deadlines. Function, flexibility, and upgrades for the library staff, and making this a more modernized library that can also withstand the next 100 years. We've been now doing around 36 community outreach. We've been trying to hit all areas of Pasadena and all different groups in Pasadena, and talking to them about the library and the plans. We've heard lots of community feedback. A lot of people wanted new restrooms, wanting the coffee cart back, wanting meeting rooms, better flexibility, charging space, places to just sit on the floor and read books. And we found when we were doing this process that a lot of the spaces that the library uses and the spaces we were planning met all these goals. So in some of the areas of the building, we're taking more liberties than others because they have newer additions on. So in this one wing, it's called the Southeast Wing. It was built in the 1960s. And in that wing, we're taking a little bit more liberties and adding in some more rooms for meeting spaces, or study rooms, or tutoring areas for the community. We're also adding in or improving flexible spaces. The courtyard, we're connecting the courtyard better. We're also making it accessible. The Great Hall we're upgrading with power, AV hookups. The Innovation Lab, we're improving and putting it in a different place and creating a large flex space down in the basement. The auditorium also has and is very, very used space that we found in the library. We are improving this backstage area. It never had a green room or changing areas. We're improving that. We're also creating a better AV room for it and giving them just better access around the room, and also giving it a chair lift for the stage, which it didn't have before. Once again, going back to the accessibility. The library has endless events. They have story time, author visits, cultural events throughout the year. And they use up many of their spaces. So we had to make sure that the spaces had that ability to be flexible. So the library is nationally listed, and it is also locally listed. It is known for its Mediterranean style. This was done in 1927 by Myron Hunt. The massing of the building is much of its character-defining features, so we do not want to touch the exterior of the building and change that up. The interior, also with its finishes and woodwork, is also character-defining, so we are also working to protect that. What is great about what we had discovered with the old historic drawings was that Myron's team had developed an integrated HVAC system into the bookcases and the structural walls as part of the design, and we are maintaining that and going to improve it. All right, so here's where we're at with developing some of the design. In the 1980s, the parking lot was added on the north and became the main entrance to the building. The south entrance was the original entrance, but is not accessible. This is the existing ground level, and you'll see, let's see if I have a button here to point, and I guess you guys can't really see, so we won't do that. The book stack area is the 1980s addition where they're developed 4 levels that Myron Hunt had envisioned but hadn't yet built. So I'll show you some pictures of that. Thanks, Deborah. This is where people come in from the north parking lot and they have to weave their way around and come into the Great Hall. This was something very early on that we were told didn't work well. People got lost. They didn't know how to get out. A lot of people had crazy stories about things in the stacks. It'd be the perfect haunted house type setup, but we wanted to improve it. So the design that we took, and I'll go back just a second, the circulation desk in the Great Hall was meant to greet people as they came in from the south entrance. We're taking that and reallocating it into the circulation, what we're calling the circulation hall, whoops, and positioning it so that the library staff can see people entering in from the north entry and people entering in from the south entry, and gives people a direct path to that Great Hall and to both entrances. The lower level did have book stacks down there and a copy center and book storage and offices, but it had multiple different levels. And so since we have to go through and upgrade the footings and the walls, we have to get to all these foundations. We have to then dig up those floors, and we can then re-level out the floor and make it a usable and accessible space for the public and the staff. So our new proposal for the lower level has staff offices. It has the teen room. It has the innovations lab that we wanted to connect with the teen room. It has the flex space. And at the same time, we're opening up some of the windows that were these light wells for offices to get the staff to have better light. The second level was also a mishmash of offices, different levels, an outdoor connection point, and the book stacks. So part of our proposal here is to have offices, and then over in the book stacks area where we're calling the circulation hall, creating that mezzanine and then giving that space, which actually was the janitor's quarters back in the day, a gallery for the community to use as an artist in residence or showcasing community art. Giving you guys some pictures of the Great Hall in the 1920s and a Great Hall fairly, how it looks when it was closed on the right. Here is a picture of the opening that we're proposing into that stacks area, or what we're calling the circulation hall. And it already was an architectural opening in that millwork that you can see on the existing picture on the right. And what we're doing, we're just taking down the wall and a stairwell behind and opening that into the next room to allow that light and circulation. So this is taking that circulation desk, turning it and putting it in the circulation hall. So on the top is the north vestibule and where you'd enter from the parking lot, and down below is the Great Hall. Adding in a new elevator and really opening up this space, still with stacks of books. This is an axon of that, giving you kind of a three-dimensional view. Once again, south entrance in the courtyard, north entrance to the left. It's opening up that space into the Great Hall. This is the scary kind of stacks area that we were mentioning that is not in character, that were these levels that were hard to maneuver through. Here's an image of looking towards this double height space that we have, and we're at the circulation desk. So to the left, we can see the north entry parking, and to the right, we can see into the Great Hall where people would be coming in from the south. There are existing skylights up there right now. We would be really taking advantage of getting that light down. It's north facing, they're north facing skylights. It's okay for the books. We have clear story windows as well too that are smaller, but in a popped up area that's all part of the existing architecture. We would be ringing this with new bookshelves and these new circulation walkways. Similar view, just tilted a little bit more towards the Great Hall and that opening that I was mentioning. Deborah, can you? This is a little walkthrough video that we have coming in from that south entry in through the Great Hall, underneath that first mezzanine, looking up into this double height space with what we were showing you as the existing skylights, clear story, and then going up to the first mezzanine level. We would have new lookup stations for information and looking up books called the OPAC machines. Also, we would have the self-checkouts and different little niches worked in here. So you see a few of those in this. We won't go through all the video, but we'll make this video available for you guys to look at after. This has kind of a view down to that circulation desk. I want to note that we will be altering the middle of the circulation desk to make it accessible for ADA. And then this is now going up to the second mezzanine level that has a little bit more space for books, but still has that great view down to the circulation desk for the staff to be able to visibly keep track of what's going on, if people need help, or if they need to see what's going on. There's also a gallery space up off of this one. So maybe just fast forward to the gallery. Oh, okay. That one's good. Perfect. And we'll make that available. This is a view from Walnut Street. Walnut, yeah. Thank you. This is a view that looks towards the front south face of the library. Off to the right, we're introducing a sloped walking path that's kind of like a ramp, but it's more just a sloped walkway up into the courtyard. On the left side, we're introducing a learning garden or a library garden that's off of the auditorium and the children's storytime room. We'd be introducing into the landscape a lot of pollinating friendly plants, drought-tolerant plants. We do have in-house landscape architects on our team. This is a little bit of a site plan. Besides redoing the parking lot, because right now none of the spaces are per code, we would be updating the parking lot, adding in some more EV chargers, developing different handicap space locations. But we would be introducing a new ramp on the north entry. We would be introducing the library park on the west side, and then we would be upgrading the courtyard and creating accessibility from the south. This is a view of the north entry from the parking lot. And this is the south entry and that kind of sloped walkway that kind of blends into the landscape that we have designed. In the courtyard is where I was mentioning earlier, the design had been for these outdoor reading spaces, and there are 3 different kind of patios in this courtyard. And because the library has so many functions and needs it flexible, we're looking to open that up. So adding in some steps between, and then what you don't see in here is also we have ramps to get up to those upper patio levels. We'd be keeping in a coffee cart. And then I'll hand this over to Tim for next steps, right? Do you want this?
Great presentation. Thank you, Devin. It's great. So I'm looking at the clock, and I think this is a good time for questions, because I think this presentation may have opened up your minds to some questions you've got. Yes, okay. Mm-hmm.
We have a microphone.
I can repeat the question too, if you said, yeah. Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. So the first question was about parking. So at this time, the parking lot will have about close to the same number of spaces that we've got, and we don't have plans to charge for parking. We currently have free parking, and there isn't a plan to change that at this time. And then the second question was about security, I think during the daytime and overnight too. So now while the building is closed, we have a vacant building, we have 24-hour security, making sure that there's no problems in the building. When the library reopens again, we have a security patrol that are city employees that work only at the library, who are dedicated to that location and know the staff and know the community, and it isn't rotating a new person from a company that's just coming in for the first time that day, but people that are really dedicated to that space, which is a great way to kind of, I'll say, deter any bad behavior, but also help people around and find their way around. So we need to make it a safe space. Thanks for asking that question. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. I was hoping you could reinstate the cafe because books read better with a latte.
Did you hear that? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The question was about a cafe. The coffee cart will serve the function.
Yeah, the question was about the coffee service cafe that was in the courtyard, and that will come back, yes. And we will plan to do what we did before, which we'll open the courtyard in the morning before the building even opens, where the community can come and gather and have a coffee and socialize together before the library opens, the way it used to be. Can't wait for that, yeah. And then we'll go, yes. Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So hundreds of thousands of books from Central Library. Most of the books, where are the books in Central Library now? We moved as many of the popular books as we could into our neighborhood branch libraries. That still left us with about 300,000 books that needed a home. So on South Raymond Avenue, there's a warehouse that the city owns called the Rose Palace, which has been a place where parade floats have been built and rock concerts have happened and luxury cars have been stored, and now it is storing the most important thing of all, knowledge. All of the library books that would fit in that space are now stored. You can't visit that location, but you can find those titles on our library website. A staff member goes there every day, fills the orders, puts them on a van, and sends them to the library branch that you want to pick them up at. Takes a little longer. You can't browse. It's not perfect, but it's better than just having them in boxes somewhere. And then there's one last piece of it, our local history collection of unique books about Pasadena's history that are one-of-a-kind directories from 100 years ago and things like that. They need to be very carefully climate controlled in the right humidity and right temperature, so we preserve those. We have a very special space planned for those. In the basement of the public health department was the old morgue. And there's nothing happening there now, and it's the perfect place to make sure the books are kept at the right temperature and the right humidity. I know it's kind of gross, but it's pretty creative. So this year, the local history resources will temporarily be housed at the public health department, thanks to their generosity, until we reopen Central Library. So that's it. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes before you go in the library, you need to have an idea where you're going. What kind of signage will be outside to tell you where the children's division is, and all these other wonderful things that you're going to have.
The question was about finding your way through the library and what kind of signage we have. And the Gruen team is on top of that. One of the best things about this new plan is when you walk into the library from the parking lot, you're not going to be walking into a maze of book stacks with no customer service desk in sight. This new plan, you're going to walk into a hall where the customer service desk is going to be the first thing on the right, where you can find somebody to help you, and the staff can see you come in and help you find your way too. So we're going to make a big improvement in being able to find your way around to the library. That's good. And I think I know we have other presenters, so there's time for one more question. We'll wrap it up, or is that it? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm good. This is maybe a silly question, but what kind of way will they have badges and so forth so we can distinguish who those people are?
That's a great question. How will we know? Every city employee should be wearing what I'm wearing right now, an ID badge. So, and I can see, Brenda Harvey Williams.
My brain is rolling,
Yeah.
but I'm also asking you to have them color-coded for certain sections so it'd be easier to do it that way.
Thank you for that suggestion. Great idea. If anybody didn't hear the question, how are staff identified? Are they wearing badges? And then there was a suggestion that maybe depending on what division of the library you work in, a different way to identify them, like a different colored badge for children's area or adult. Great question, thanks. Yeah, or shirts, thank you. Thanks a lot. There is a website to learn more. Come visit us at this table and you can get the business card. Thanks a lot, thank you.
Library looks like it's going to be very beautiful, and all the design. I'm most excited about the new access path. I think we lose sight of ensuring that everyone has access to our public libraries and being able to build this access path so they can have access inside their own library is a great feature. So we appreciate that design. Okay, up next, I will introduce Michael Lynn, engineer from Pasadena Water and Power, who will present on the Sunset Complex project. Welcome, Michael.
Sorry, give me one sec. Thank you, Councilmember Jones, Lisa, for inviting us to present on the Sunset Complex project. So as Councilmember Jones mentioned, I'm Michael Lynn. I'm the project engineer for the Sunset Complex project. So just a few things I want to highlight before we get into the presentation. The existing Sunset reservoirs are over 130 years old, and they need a replacement and vulnerable to earthquake and leakage. The Sunset Complex project provides for new reservoirs that is designed to current standards, new groundwater treatment for removal of contaminants, and emergency generators for power outage. Public outreach and input are important to Pasadena Water and Power and have shaped the development of this project, and we will continue to hold public outreach through construction. Site improvements will include landscaping, security fencing, visual enhancements of Gloria Pump Station. Construction is anticipated to be completed in 2028. So the existing Sunset Reservoir is located on a 9-acre lot at the intersection of West Mountain and Sunset Avenue, which is roughly half a mile north of us. The existing Sunset Reservoir consists of 2 reservoirs, as shown on the screen in the middle, and 2 groundwater well, which is Bangin Well and Sunset Well, which is located on the north end and in the south end of the site. Reservoir 1 was constructed in 1888. Reservoir 2 was constructed around 1900s. These 2 reservoirs combined to have a storage capacity of 15.5 million gallons. These reservoirs, among several other city-owned reservoirs, form the backbone of city distribution system. Some of the issues at these reservoirs are related to structural leakage, and they are vulnerable to tampering. Currently, only Reservoir 2 is in operation. So the Sunset Complex will provide 2 new concrete reservoirs with a total storage volume of 11 million gallons. A new groundwater treatment facility consisting of ion exchange and LGAC to treat groundwater contaminants. The groundwater treatment facility will be sized initially for 1,500 GPM with room to expand up to 4,500 GPM. The groundwater treatment will also have a disinfection system. The project would also rehab the existing bag well, provide new emergency generators, staff parking, and landscaping. So here on the screen, we have a site plan of the proposed project. As I mentioned earlier, we're providing 2 concrete reservoirs located on the south side, shown in blue. New parking will be provided for staff along the north side of the reservoir and the west side of the reservoirs. The groundwater treatment facility will be located on the west side. The emergency generator will be located next to Bag & Well on the north side, shown in yellow, and the existing Florida booster pump station that's shown in yellow between the 2 reservoirs. New landscaping will be provided along Sunset Avenue and Mountain Street. We will also be replacing the existing 36-inch pipeline between Florida Booster Pump Station and Mountain. So as I mentioned earlier, public input is very important to us. So over the past couple of years, we held a number of community meetings and tours for the facilities. Some of the comments that we received involve the location of the proposed truck access and the location and visibility of the groundwater treatment facility. In order to address their comments or concerns, we decided that we were going to relocate the groundwater treatment facility from the east side of the site to the west side, so it's further from public view. We also eliminated the dedicated truck access. But with those changes, we had to provide new access to the site. In order to do that, we had to modify the existing entrances on Sunset Avenue and West Mountain Street. So we will be providing a new traffic signal on West Mountain Street, a new left turn pocket so that delivery trucks will safely enter the site. We would also provide a new pedestrian crosswalk so that pedestrians can safely cross the street to get to Brennan Park and vice versa. In order to reduce the visibility of the treatment facility and reservoir, as I mentioned, we removed it to the west side of the site so that's further from public view. We are also limiting the height of the new reservoir so that it's no higher than the existing reservoirs. We will also be providing landscaping so that it would help hide the facilities from public view. Other concerns that were brought up includes construction impact, such as noise and traffic. In order to address these issues, we will be requiring the contractor to provide noise and dust mitigation. So noise mitigation will involve restricting construction to the hours shown on the screen. And I'm sorry for not changing the slide. Dust mitigation would require dust control BMPs, such as wetting the pavement or wetting the ground, providing polymers, street sweeping, or track-out control devices. Traffic and parking concerns will be addressed by restricting vehicles with heavy equipment to specific routes and requiring traffic control measures. The city will approve the construction staging and traffic management plan. Contractor will also be limited to on-site parking and parking that they procured themselves. Contact information to key personnel will also be provided to the surrounding residents so that if any issues arise during construction, they can reach out to us so that we can address them. We also provide improvements to the perimeter of the site, such as new fencing, security cameras, landscape, and noise mitigation at Gloria Booster Pump Station. So currently the design is paused at 90%. The reason for that is so that we could work on the resubmitting conditional use permit and work on the EIR. We're currently trying to finalize the draft EIR. We anticipate that the draft EIR will be available for public review in the next couple of months. As for the schedule, we expect that the design and permitting phase will be completed in the spring of 2025, and we will move into contractor procurement, and we anticipate that construction will start sometime in the spring of 2026 and be completed by summer of 2028. We estimate that this project will cost $72 million. In order to help pay for this funding, Congresswoman Judy Chu helped secure just under $1 million for us through the Community Grant Fund. We are also pursuing low-interest federal loan through EPA Water Infrastructure and an Innovation Act Fund. Unfortunately, with these federal funding comes additional requirements, such as the NEPA requirements, which we are incorporating into our draft EIR. So here we have a rendering of the proposed project. North is to the right. As you can see, the two reservoirs are located on the south side and with those two big circles. The groundwater treatment facility is located on the top side of the parking lot. Bang and Well, which is kind of hard to see, is on the north side, and Sunset Well has been eliminated. So here we just have a little figure showing the before and after, and I just want to open it up to any questions. I'm sorry, could you repeat the last part?
So when I went back in, I did a tour, I think in like 2022, and I found out that there were certain wells that were being sold out at Pasadena. Are these two wells going to be providing water for people in Pasadena, or any of it going to be sold out?
Groundwaters are usually being provided for city use. The only time that we would sell it to other outside the city would be when, actually, no, I take that back. I'm sorry. We will not be selling groundwater out. Or if there's groundwater rights. I'm sorry. No. Okay.
How close is this to the residents, and are there hazards for the residents of this development?
So the existing reservoir, as you can see, is basically right across the street from the residence. So the new reservoirs will be located at the same location. There is no hazard to the surrounding residents.
Can they see those, looks like towers from their homes, or?
So our plan is to provide landscaping screening. So basically we'll be installing new trees, shrubs to help hide the new facilities from the public view.
Hi, I'm Lynn. I live on Sunset Avenue. So my question is, where are you putting the generators? There's a house right there. Are you going to do something to mitigate the noise for that house that's right next to it? The generator is going to be by Bangham Well, correct?
Yeah, so we are putting a new generator by Bang & Well, which will only be used during an emergency. We won't be providing any mitigation at this point, but the reason for it is that this is only for emergency uses and it will hopefully hardly be used.
Okay. And then you said that there was a new left turn for the Sunset. Is that on Mountain or on Sunset?
The left turn pocket will be on Mountain.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What is the existing height of the reservoirs, and what would be the new proposed height for the renovation of the reservoir?
I believe the existing reservoirs are roughly 25, 26 feet to the top. The new reservoirs are going to be roughly 25 feet to the top, measured from ground surface. I believe we had one more question earlier.
Around that wall is over there on Sunset. That was
There isn't a mural on the existing wall around Sunset. There is a rock wall around that covers the south side and partially along the east side of Sunset, which we are preserving.
Oh, that's what I wanted to know, if it was going to be preserved. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, could you just speak to what impact this is going to have on our water rates in the immediate term and in the longer term? I assume these upgrades are ultimately going to be to the benefit of the city, but I'm just wondering how we're going to feel it each month.
Well, I can't really speak for the finances. Unfortunately, our finance folks are here to help elaborate what the impacts were. Yeah, I really can't speak to it. We do have a lot of projects throughout the city that all have impacts to the rates, but I can't tell you how much this project will impact your rates.
Okay, so last time we talked, and John Kennedy, we talked about having an out-facing camera at the Sunset parking lot. What's the status of the out-facing camera?
So as I mentioned earlier, we will be providing security camera around the site. As for whether it be out-facing, some of them will be, some of them won't be. But I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's give it up for Michael. Well, thank you all for coming out. I just had a few quick announcements. Later this month, I hope you will join me in our public art walking tour, which will be hosted on Sunday, October 20th at 10 a.m. for a 2.5-mile tour showcasing notable public arts commissioned under the city's private development and civic public arts program. And we'll meet in front of City Hall, Robinson Memorial. And also, I hope you'll come out and join us for Art Night, a night at the Armory. I'm sorry, not Art Night, a night at the Armory. It's Friday, November 15th, so this is for District 3 residents. We're hosting a special preview of what's going on, the exhibits at the Armory, so I hope you can join us for that. It'll be Friday, November 15th. And then also we do have our Robinson Park Public Art Project, so I hope you sign up for our newsletter or visit the City of Pasadena to get the latest information on that. And then we also do have our Northwest Commissioner, Mr. Michael Collins. I did see him, he's back there. The Northwest Commission right now is meeting with Public Works to solicit call for projects for our capital improvement program. And so if you have any ideas for a project, please send it over our way, email us, and then we can get it to Mr. Collins, and then he can present it at the Northwest Commission. And this is something that happens every year, capital improvement program. It's any projects that's worth over $75,000. It has to address a particular safety issue, maintenance, and it have to implement the vision of the general plan. And so there's a lot of information. We'll get it in our newsletter. But if you have any ideas to improve your community, please send us those ideas and we'll get it to our Northwest Commissioner. And with that, I appreciate you guys coming out on a Wednesday. Oh, go ahead.
With this project that they're going to do on Sunset, are they going to get some of the young people from the Flintridge program to participate in that? Because I think that's a good way to start showing the true meaning of we're working together as a community. Because otherwise, somebody slipped up.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I think that if we're not, we'll meet and see if we can bring some of those folks from Flintridge on to the construction and create a pathway right to the middle class and beyond. Especially is you know, a lot of folks have barriers to employment, and if they can work in their city and then get a job, start a career, and be on their way, I think that's a great thing, that not only that we've provided a resource of water for our residents, but we've also provided a pathway to the middle class, and hopefully that they'll be able to work and save their money and purchase a home in Pasadena and build and continue to develop their roots in this city. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Was there any other questions before we break? Well, thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. And take care.